And every time that you open your mouth, make sure that you have an irreversible insight. Because if not, you are just adding fluff to a very, very, very fluffy world. Attention chiropractors, slayers of subluxation, unleashers of the imprisoned impulse, and protectors of the developing brain. Welcome to the Cranial Doc Podcast, where we master the work that actually changes lives. Craniopathy, nervous system-based care, and the business systems that let you scale without selling your soul. I'm Dr. Anthony Pellegrino, pediatric chiropractor, certified craniopath, and proud automation geek. Let's dive in. What's up there, subluxation slayers? A little bit of a different episode today. I've been having these really raw and real reflections recently at this stage of my career and my life and practice and everything else like that. Just about trying to audit the things that the people who I let speak into my life. Why am I drawn to certain people versus others? Who do I love that other people don't in our profession? And who do other people love and they just don't click for me? And of course, like all things that I love to do and what you love to hear me talk about, I know that there's a categorical system in my brain for how I can put people into different categories and why I like them or not. And I've been thinking about what it is that draws me to a leader and not. And I think that I figured it out. So we're going to talk about that today. And I want you to just kind of take a second and think about, for the people in your life who you follow, who you like to listen to, who is great entertainment and who actually changes your life. I think many of us probably have a bunch of people that we love to listen to, and they get a room going and it's super excited and we love to hear from them. And then when you ask oh, what did you learn? What did you implement? What did you take away from that? It's like the notebook is empty. And I think that there is 3 different C's that go into what makes a valuable leader or speaker or whatever else. And of course, we have charisma, right? I mean, let's call it what it is. We need that. We need somebody to have that personality, that excitement, that entertainment, that edutainment. We need all of that, right? So we need the charisma. Then the other 2 C's, I think, is where we really need to take a look. And that's competence and content. Charisma, competence, and content. And I'm going to kind of put those last 2, competence and content, into the same thing when we discuss this. I think that they are really separated, but that's more of a philosophical conversation on the inside. It's basically competence would be like, oh, does this person actually have, a high level of understanding in the thing that they're speaking of? Or do they just sound like they do because they're charismatic? And I think that that's a big thing to be able to answer for ourselves. And then content, which is, oh, hey, I think the difference there is that there are certainly people who I listen to and I'm like, oh yeah, you have a high level of competence in this, I guess, because I've spoken to you. I know that you know what you're talking about, but you don't give that, you're not delivering that to your community. You're not putting that content when you speak. You're not leading with that. That's just kind of on the back burner. So anyway, we've got charisma, we've got competence, and we've got content. What I started to notice is a couple different things. We'll start with the negative. We'll move into the positive. Just auditing the people in our profession that there's not just this. There's other things too, right? Just do our values align and different pieces like that. If somebody's just, oh, hey, my whole Instagram is just look how much money we have. You might have good shit to say. You'd probably have a high level of charisma. You probably have a higher level of competence or content or whatever, maybe giving gold nuggets away, but I'm probably just not going to really enjoy your content because that just doesn't align with my values. But with that being said, I still might take stuff that you have to say, but I just might not. If you have high confidence in content, I'm probably still going to take your stuff and implement it, right? It still might impact me. I just might not enjoy doing it if our values don't align. But that's another conversation for another time. So really what I just kind of noticed was that there's so many people out there who are very charismatic, right? They bring people in, they draw people in. It's like, oh my gosh. And then you look at what's actually being said and it's like, there's nothing of value here. The charisma, the way things are presented are just to make themselves feel good, to make people laugh, which is great. It's all very from the ego of I'm putting things out in this way because if I make you engage with this, if I get you excited about this, then that makes me feel really good. And to say that, delivering in a great way, getting people excited about something, it's always good for the ego. Even you could deliver like the highest amount of value in a talk, like high confidence, high content, and there still is an egotistical part of it, which is like, hell yeah. Do you know how much content I gave? I just boom, delivered, right? And there is like an ego part of it. But the thing is that if we are just being charismatic, if you are being charismatic, if the people we follow are just being charismatic without the substance behind it, the point, the intention, we're leading with the ego versus leading with the intent of what are we going to get away from this? Okay. Guys, you probably turned this off so far. This is a little bit different. I promise it's going to come full circle. I'm going to reference a previous podcast episode also, which is going to bring it all around. If you just if I'm charismatic enough that you're still listening because you're like, I think that we're going to get to something good, thank you so much. And if not, that's fine. Catch you on the next episode. Okay. So I think that we need to start to audit overall and say, okay, who are we following and listening to that a high level of charisma, but very low level of content or competence? Okay. So that's number one. And then number two, that was the negative. Let's focus on the positive. The people, the chiropractors at this point that honestly I most let speak into my life, who I take the most from when I put down my stuff and I listen to them, there's a handful. It's Marty Rosen, Nancy Wasson, Amy Spolstra, Stephanie Libbs. Those are my current people. And there's been others in the past that have been amazing and life-changing, and I've implemented so much for them, but right now I draw my stuff and I open it up because I know that, of course, these people are going to deliver with a very high level of charisma, but also they really know their shit, and the goal of what they're saying, they are being charismatic. And here's the intent piece, right? The charisma is there because it's required to get you to get it. I'm going to go back and say that, right? The charisma, the way that they are like learning to do this is because the thing that they are delivering, the content that they are delivering is so effing important that they need to be charismatic because this is so important. They've made the decision of, I am going to be the best version of this because you and our profession needs to get this. And I'm going to do it because that's how important this is. Do you see the opposite? I think there's probably so many people that we can audit and look and speak into us. And it's like, oh my gosh, that was so exciting. And they're being exciting for the sake of it. And then there's others who are like, no, this is at the forefront and everything else is behind it, right? And what does this come back to? Those people that I mentioned, when we did our talk building podcast a couple podcasts ago, I mentioned that for my in-office workshops, I do not write one word does not get written until I have an irreversible insight. What is the one thing that if someone gets my talk, that they are going to learn that is going to change the way that they view the world forever, view their practice forever, view our profession forever. And if they did the things that I say to do, it's going to change everything. These people do not speak without that. That's it. There is always an irreversible insight. Always. 100% of the time. There's always something that like, if you engage, if you listen, you are going to learn this and it's going to peel the blinders off and change the way that you view the world forever. Go back and listen. Like, listen to these people. Pull up old talks to them. Pull up the greats. Look at the great chiropractic debate with Reggie Gold. He's not up there to battle a medical doctor because he just wants to feel good and be the one doing it. There is an irreversible insight. We do not treat symptoms. And more. But like, that's it. And you can just see the medical doctor who just was like unable to comprehend. He cannot accept the insight. He cannot peel the blinders back off his glasses. He cannot take off the rose-colored glasses and he cannot see that. So it's just like, if we can't agree on the major premise, but if you accept that and you watch that debate and you can see through the lens that Reggie is putting out, you can never view the world the same ever again after watching that. You just can't. And for us and for our leadership, and I mean, guys, I'm on here because the point of all of this, right, of the existence of this podcast, of the existence of my work, is because I know that pediatric chiropractors should be the authority on the cranial conversation. I just know that because I know the work that we can do. And I know the work that other people are doing that maybe complements us. I know the other work that people are doing that they think is in competition with us, but it's just not, because it's just on completely different playing fields. Because when there's a challenging like technique, I go and I learn it because I'm like, oh, maybe there's something good here. Maybe there's something good. And I'm just like, no, this is not, it's just not there. The depth just isn't there. Like, I just know it, right? I also know that the whole world is having a cranial and airway conversation right now that like we're prepped to be the solution for, and that right now is our moment. And if we don't do it, other people will come in, take our shit, bastardize it, and sell it to everybody, sell it back to our patients and say that it's original. And so the whole point of this is that, and it's hopefully inspiring people to, especially in the pediatric world, to like do that. Okay. But then all the business stuff is just because if you're doing this work, you deserve to be completely successful and serve more patients. And I just want to give you the tools to be able to do that and use our powers for good. That's it, right? You could take all the business stuff that we're doing and apply it to insurance, right? But let's just use our powers for good, you know? So sweet. Okay. I also know that that is happening. So every individual episode, of course, has an irreversible insight, like do this thing, right? And then this is what's different. But then as a whole, like we have another. And so when we look at it, what I want you to do, what's the irreversible insight of this episode, is that the people in your life, make sure that they have an irreversible insight. And every time that you open your mouth, make sure that you have an irreversible insight. Because if not, you are just adding fluff to a very, very, very fluffy world. Okay? So really, 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 let's start internal. Let's start with the internal work. Okay? Do we need to start internal, external? Let's start internal, right? Because it's always above, down, inside out. And just like, audit your shit. When you're speaking to your patients this week, like, I got to tell you, it is helpful that I don't talk about sports because I don't know anything or like sports. But, you know, what is the irreversible insight of last night's score? Right? Like, what is? Nothing. You know, and if you're a more decent volume, like you have a couple minutes with this person to peel back the layers of the way that they're viewing the world and change the way that they're going to live their life forever. You have a couple minutes a week. Okay. Like even if they're 3 times a week, you got a couple minutes a week. They're going to leave your 4 walls and are going to go out to a world that tries to convince them that they are not enough. And like, that's what's going to happen. And it's like, are we going to waste our fucking 15 minutes asking about the Yankees? Again, I'm biased and I have the advantage that I don't care about any sport, okay? So like that makes it easy. But no, we're not gonna waste our time. It's too important what we're doing. It's too important. We need to change the way they view the world forever. Like, is that easy? If they knew what we knew, yeah. So make sure that you're not just being charismatic, have a personality-driven practice, and that you actually deliver content with competence. Boom. There we go. And then now that we do the internal work of auditing that, if you struggle with that, which let's call it what it is, especially extroverts like me, externalizers who often just want to fill the airwaves for the sake of filling the airwaves, audit who you're letting speak into your life and saying, am I watching this person because watching them is like reality television, or are they actually giving me things to change my life forever? If you listen to somebody speak for an hour, I'm not calling anybody out with this, I'm just saying in general, right? And if it's like, what did you learn? That was really fun. And it's like, what are you going to do differently? I'm not sure. I'm going to go work harder. Maybe that's why you struggle with it, is because you're choosing to fill yourself up with fluff. And if you're a leader in this profession and you listen to this, first of all, thank you and welcome. I love you. But I hope that you especially do the audit. What is my irreversible insight? What am I trying to get across? Listen, I'm a dude. We all have tendencies. When I speak, when I do this, when somebody comes up to me and says they love my shit, like, it feels good. Am I saying, oh, I'm devoid of ego? No, not at all. Gosh, it feels good, right? It really feels good. I'm not going to lie to you. I am healing. I am not healed. I'm a recovering egomaniac. I'm on my journey. Okay. It feels good. Let's call it what it is, right? But if like that is what you get out of the talk, if that's what you get out from working with somebody, and if honestly like that's the driver, man, I think you're fucking up. And I think we have an ethical responsibility to do better for people that listen to us, because what we have to do is too important. Because this profession is too important. Because the kids are too important. Anyway, thank you guys for listening. I know that this was different. I hope that you took away a good irreversible insight here, and that we can do better. And if this isn't for you, how about I promise that next episode gets like nerdy again? So don't hang up and never come back because I talked slow and didn't yell at you about cranial subluxation and disaffrontation theory for 1 week. Come back next week. I'll give you some mechanism. But thank you for listening to this one. I think it's important. Love you. Go slay some subluxations. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Cranial Doc Podcast. I hope you got a ton of value out of today's episode. And if you did, it would mean the world to me if you jumped over to iTunes or your favorite podcast player of choice and subscribed, rated, reviewed, and shared this episode with a friend that you know could benefit. We have a ton of this information and more in our free email series at thecranialdoc.com. So go ahead and jump on there, subscribe, and get me raw, unfiltered in your inbox every week, changing your practice. Can't wait to see you for the next episode.